This morning, and it's my pleasure to welcome the Governor of Edo State, Comrade Adams Oshiomhole. Good morning, Excellency.
Good morning, my sister.
Good to have you with us today.
My pleasure.
And we see that the comrade thing is still continuing. Once a comrade, always a comrade.
The struggle continues.
Aluta continua. Aluta is still
The struggle
continuing.
continues.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Maybe I should start from the area of education, which seems to be one of the main things that your government is focusing on. There was some exams that you conducted not too long ago, and we understand that not many teachers turned up for that particular exam. What is the position in that regard?
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate that most of the teachers didn't turn up, but I am determined that we must forge ahead. I think leadership requires courage to do what you are convinced about, particularly when it is informed by the good of the people. The future of our country is not in the hands of those of us who are in my age bracket. It's in the hands of those who are younger, those little kids who are in primary schools. The kind of foundation we lay for them will define our tomorrow. And every year, across the country, we lament the crisis in education. Employers lament the fact that they have graduates who can't write simple application, and because they are so deficient, they are not even employable. Because even when they employ them, they can't benefit from in-house training. You have to have some sound foundation on which you can build on. And it's a common statement around the world that you can't put something on nothing. So if people don't have sound primary education, they don't have sound secondary education, there's no need to talk about. There is no country in the world where everybody is a graduate. There is no country in the world where everybody has PhD. But the world is unanimous that the poorest of the poor must have at least sound basic education, which in Nigeria we call universal basic education, which is primary 1 to 6 and GSS 1 to 3. In Edo, we have actually extended it to SS1 to 3, which is to say that we guaranteed the Edo child free primary education in full, free of all kind of charges, including charges for examination, etc. We also guarantee same to all our junior secondary school pupils as well as our senior secondary school pupils. So we think that when we provide at least 12 years of uninterrupted education, we have given the child a foundation on which to build on. Those who have the aptitude can go further to acquire other degrees. Those who don't have can take to other trades. In any case, they have enough to resort to self-help, to read manuals, to go to serious vocational training, etc. But I found that, like you said, we made a lot of investment, building schools, making them attractive, and I'm happy with the kind of result we are getting. In the past, you find people playing on the streets 9 a.m., 10 a.m., when they ought to have been in class at as early as 8 a.m. Right now, teachers tell me that people get to school before 8, and they don't want to leave, at least those schools that we have rebuilt. Because the average school in a typical rural area is more appealing to the child than the house of his parents. And so he has no reason to rush back home, nor will he have any reason to be reluctant to go to school. For me, this is a major achievement. Have you done that? The second question is, why is it that in spite of this investment, and we can roll out the numbers, not just budgetary allocation, but actual releases, and how those have translated to beautiful schools, and we advertise them on radio, on television. What we are not able to advertise is the quality of teacher in the classroom. And as I go around the schools, once I was somewhere, paid an unscheduled visit to inspect a school we're constructing, and I ran into these kids. And of course, they came and said, "Comrade Shubaba, we want to talk to you." And I stopped. And a little kid who was in JSS 2, I think, said that, "Oshubaba, we thank you for the school you are building for us. We are very, very happy. But before you finish the school, we need you to put new furniture in our old school." we know this one will be finished, but before then, we want something, which is nice. I said, fine, we'll do that. He said, then one more thing, what is it? Please talk to our teachers that when we are in school, they should find time to teach us.
Oh, dear.
And this is a little kid complaining about his teacher. And I said, okay, I will talk to the teachers. I will also talk to their union. Of course, I've gone around the state. I have found that a school in which you have 10 teachers, 12 teachers, you may find only 2 or 3 are present. And I went around many schools. I found that, on average, teachers are absent sometimes twice out of 5 days in a week. They apparently just alternate. And even when they come in, I look at the attendance register, I found that many never report at 8 a.m. And I said, how long can we continue with this? So we decided to carry out some investigation. The second thing we discovered was that, people were complaining that we don't have enough teachers in schools. And now we carry out a study. We use our information technology system to, collect basic data and play around them to have a global picture as to how many teachers do we need? How many pupils do we have? And the result was very revealing. We found that in some local government, we have a ratio of 19 pupils to 1 teacher. The highest was where we have about 38 pupils to 1 teacher, which means even going by UNESCO standard, Edo State government is doing extremely well. That our ratio is a lot better than you find even in the UK. And yet, traditional rulers report to me that in schools in their domain, they only have 2 teachers in a school with 6 classrooms, which means that we are paying people who are not at work. Now, in the course of trying to check who is where and why is this happening, I stumbled into a lady who didn't know the difference between 1 and I. And when I noticed that she couldn't read, I said, wait a minute, read this whole affidavit that you sworn to. And she said, instead of I solemnly declare, and this is printed word, she said, 1 Solomon. I said, no, read what is here. He said, I said, 1 Solomon. So she doesn't know the difference between I and 1. Solemnly is for her Solomon. And then she went on, Onitsha, prophet. So, no, there's no Onitsha in this paper. Read not what is in your head. Read what is in this affidavit. Now, she meant to say Bini Judicial Division. Oh, but I suspect that this false affidavit might have been sworn into somewhere to Onitsha. So she insisted on Onitsha prophet. Now, what was she calling prophet? Province. She didn't know the difference between province and prophet. And she went on and on and on. And so I left feeling very depressed. Now that we have a child under the care of this woman. This woman is on level 12, grade level 12, and she's earning, beside her salary, she earned additional 27.5%, which is to say that a civil servant on level 12 earns less than a teacher on level 12, because she will earn 27.5% more.
Yes.
As a special inducement for her to remain in teaching and to teach properly. And to be willing to accept rural posting. Yeah. So at that point, I said, no. We need to make some investment in training of teachers. But even to design the training, we need to understand what kind of training they require. And the only way to assess that is to do an assessment test. So that is all it. But the unions have made it a big issue. And I try to persuade them not to define the worker as one person. The worker is also a father or a mother or an uncle. You can't divorce the interests of your own children. You can't have a situation where a primary school teacher takes her own child or his own child to a private school. Right? Because when I went there, I found some teachers were not at work. I asked them, one of the explanations was that, I went to drop my child in a school. Which school? You find it was a private school. Now, why do we accept such a situation?
Your Excellency,
I just felt that I need to deal with it, and I'm going to deal with it.
We have to look at this a bit more pragmatically. When you set a strategy in place, you put a strategy in place, and you say part of that strategy is determining training needs for teachers in Edo State. And you say part of what they need to do to be able to identify their training needs will be to do an assessment of what they know so that you know what they don't know,
The gap, yeah.
and to be able to fill that gap. How do you want to deal with this issue? Because it is not something that can be swept under the carpet and say, well, they didn't do it, the union is fighting against the government. What exactly has got to be the position of government to say, this is something that is being done for the people of our state and it will not be allowed to go?
No, I'm clear. You know, I mean, I'm a union man, and I recognize and I appreciate and I celebrate the right of workers to belong to unions and to use the union to protect their interest. That's what I've done all my life. So I am at home with unions and negotiating, persuading, etc. But I also know for a fact that when there is a conflict of interest between a guy who doesn't deserve a job and the employer who wants a job done properly by a competent person, particularly when the service involved has to do with the future of the country, you have to make up your mind to go ahead. So we are determined. I'm clear. I've made the point known to the teachers that, first, I appreciate they supported me, you know, in 2007. Last 2012 election, they publicly declared support for me. But I'm like, the only thing I promised was that I was going to leave Edo better than I met it. So anybody who voted for me must know he voted for change. Not business as usual, business unusual. And I made the point that I would only step on toes. I might even have to chop some off. Because if the toe is contaminated, there is no point managing it. You just chop it off before it contaminates the rest of the body. So I've asked the teachers to recognize that they have a duty even to their own children. And it is wrong for us to have a situation where everybody resort to what I call privatized solution. I mean, I was watching you now, you talk about no power. Okay, this is the only country where for 20 years, 30 years, government after government gets away with it. Why? Because those with the power to speak, to mobilize, to harass authority, we've all resort to private solution by procuring our generators. So when we have serious security problems, rather than insist that our neighborhood be secured, we resort to private solution. We employ private security guy. When there is no water, rather than carry our suits and our skirts to the water board and say, you must give us water, we look for money to seek private boreholes. So, I mean, everybody look for private solution. So you come to education, every Nigeria of means, and even the ones without means, we've all resort to private school.
Isn't that a sign of pure failure of government?
No, not it's failure of government, but also a citizenry that is so passive and is ready to accommodate and just grumble and lament, you know, gross incompetence on the part of state operatives. You know, this is the only country where you can have peace even when people are so hungry. You know, and government cannot be responsive if it has the full sense of comfort that whether you perform or not, you guarantee it. I mean, in Edo, for example, my political opponent is saying to teachers, don't do the test. Why? Because the electorate will not punish them for not identifying, for not being committed to the future of the child. If they know that a parent whose child is in a public school because he can't afford the private one will not be happy with anyone who is not supporting the idea of ensuring that we have competent teachers in our schools. No politician will take side with an incompetent teacher. But we have an electorate that vote sometimes without issues. But what is important to me is I've said to people, I would rather lose the job than keep it and fail to use it to secure the future. So straight to your point, I'm clear that Edo State government will not retain in its employment anyone whose suitability in a classroom has not been ascertained. I have taken steps to assemble professors of education, various aspects of education from University of Benin. They are not employees of Edo State government, and I believe they are seasoned, not just professors of education, but also seasoned administrators of educational institutions. And we've asked them to handle this thing professionally. Okay. We'll give them a way. Now, some people have done the test. We are waiting to see the result. By the way we treat them, I hope others will recognize that this whole thing is not about punishment. The result will come out with three possible outcomes. Some are very good, excellent, we keep them. Some are okay, they have the foundation, they have the knowledge, but they don't know how to impart it. Because teaching is a profession. You need to know, you don't just need to be qualified to have the basic knowledge. You must also know how to impart. Now, if that is a challenge, it is for us as a employer to organize appropriate training to enable those ones to go through that training